Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning after 2 down seasons and seeing how this year will end for them. So before we get started with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. The Tampa Bay Lightning were Stanley Cup champions as recently as 2022, but have fallen on some hard times over the past 2 seasons, as in 2023 they saw their 3-year Stanley Cup final appearances snapped as they lost in the first round to, of all teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs, before following it up with another disappointing postseason in 2024, losing to their in-state rivals, the Florida Panthers, in 5 games, making us kind of wonder how things will be going now for this team, as in this part of the Sunshine State, things obviously aren't as rosy as they used to be. So if things are going to end any differently for this side, I think we do need to look at Andrei Vasilevskiy, as he's going to be one of the main focal points here. Andrei has been a great goalie for huge swaths of his career, has been a top-tier goalie, and at points been the best goalie in the world, I think. And this is something that you really didn't expect him to be as bad as he was last year. It was the worst season of his NHL career, and there is, kind of some reason behind that. Of course, he had a back injury, ended up getting surgery, had to recover from that, and also had to go on and play NHL games in the same year. So I kind of get that, but at the same time too, I do feel like at points it really did hold back this team when they needed him to perform, and he didn't. Now looking at this year, we wonder, is he any better? And the answer to this is yes. It may not look totally different. The save percentage is pretty close this year, but the goals against average is down. And importantly, he did have a pretty good start to the year before things kind of got in a bit of a rut as of late. But the first 14 games, he had a .920 save percentage, and if you can get him to kind of get into a rhythm and be at least consistently good, that does give you a chance and an opportunity. And if he does lock in for a playoff series, that would be absolutely massive for this team. I don't know if he'll ever go back to being that Vezina caliber goalie, especially because the team may not be as good in front of him. But I do think that he can still be a good goalie in the NHL and isn't crazy old or anything like that. So for now, yes, he's looking better, so therefore the team could be looking better come playoff time. Now what about offensively for this team? This has kind of been a strong point for the side for years. Things actually look pretty good here, as well as they're probably set to be a top 10 team offensively, and are a group that is looking good with, I believe, 5 players that have scored 10 goals or more already in the season. Still lots of time left to go. So you're probably looking at, let's just say, like 5 guys scoring 25 goals or more. There are enough big names to kind of keep things going for this group, and the power play I think was more of a bigger concern for this side. The man advantage has been something that had been a huge benefit for the team in recent years. Last year they actually led the NHL in power play percentage. This year, again, it looks like they'll probably be a top 10 team, maybe not top tier, but are a group that's still able to find the back of the net at a consistent rate, which is a good thing here for them. I think one thing you could kind of critique is they are getting a lot of their shots from a little bit further away. So if it's not finding the back of the net, then you say, well, we aren't getting a lot of good opportunities down low, and we're not scoring goals on the power play. That's kind of a worry for them. But for now, again, things are kind of going well. They are scoring, and it's not a huge deal. On top of that, too, they are having guys like Anthony Cirelli and then Brandon Hagel kind of have those bigger years. And to have them have big years would be really important for this organization. Both of them are under 30. I think Hagel is like 27 years old, somewhere around there. So if they could kind of step up and elevate their game and take it to a new place, along with the proven veterans that are already here, you're going to be impressed. And then when you look at a guy like Braden Point, he's already at a spot where he's closing in on 20 goals for the season. So the offense is kind of chugging along. Now, what about the defense? This is something that I think was more of a bigger concern. And I think right now you could say, oh, we want things to be better, but most teams would say that on any given year. Defensively, things are looking okay, and I think one thing that you can kind of say is they aren't giving up a lot of shots, which is a good thing when you have Andrei Vasilevskiy coming back from an injury. Anytime you have a goalie that is coming back from something as serious as that, coming off of a bad year, you want to be able to give them confidence, and in this stage, they are doing their part to kind of help out and say it's not going to be a night where he has to face 40 shots regularly. I think one thing you could kind of critique for this team defensively right now would be primarily on the PK. They are still allowing a lot of low slot chances, and I think that might have been an issue for them last year as well. Gonna have to get that thing sorted out, because when it comes to the playoffs and you have teams that are good, that have 2 really good units on the power play that might have the ability to score high, score low, maybe go cross crease and score, it's going to be an issue, because it's not even just a problem of, oh, they can get guys in front of the net. It's going to be an issue of speed. Vasi dealing with things on the breakaway while still trying to get back to top tier form might be an issue. So just kind of keep an eye out for that, because the PK percentage might be something we look back at, especially when the playoffs come around, and say this was a big reason why they got bounced in the first round for a 3rd straight year. But I do kind of want to add to this and say that this team is not as polished as they have been in recent years, and I think that's kind of a good thing when it comes to defensive play. They've got more forwards that might be a little bit more eager to jump in on the defensive end. Anthony Cirelli has been one of those guys that's been a really, really good two-way player, and I just kind of wanted to highlight that. A lot of people have in recent years anyway, so it's not like it's just totally unfounded or anything like that. But Anthony Cirelli, again, one of those players that could be a huge factor in whether this team actually kind of keeps up their expectations in the coming years, with, again, that defensive play being so big, especially at 5-on-5. So, again, not really looking that bad here for a team that the results might not be as good as what you thought based off what we've already talked about. So overall, having said all that, what is the state of the team and where do I think the season ends for them? It's really tough to say because they're in a spot right now where they're not actually in a playoff spot, but I think they'll get there. I trust them more than Philly, especially after the historic collapse, or maybe just really bad collapse we saw from the Flyers last year. This roster screams that it has more potential, at least to be better in the very, very short term compared to, Philadelphia planning for the long term. But I think primarily too, one thing that I'm seeing with Tampa Bay here is I think they've got a nice, soft, cushy schedule going into like middle January into right up to the Four Nations face-off. So if they could get hot for, 3 or 4 weeks in that time span, take advantage of some of those bad teams, they might be able to push themselves into a comfortable playoff position this year with the wildcard spots being a little bit more open, at least at this stage of the season, about 30 games in. You feel pretty confident they should be able to grab at least one of those spots. Are they going to be in a position to ever really contend for the Atlantic with this group in the next couple of years? I don't think so, at least for a division title, but I still feel like they should be pretty firmly a playoff side, even if that comes as a wildcard team. Some years there are sides that are going to make the playoffs just as a wild card because they're going to be good enough to get past some of those teams that are below them, but not good enough to get above the teams that are there right now. And obviously, like Florida and Toronto are just too good. And then you can have Boston and Tampa Bay where you wonder who's going to finish 3 in the Atlantic. But the important thing is, will the results be different come playoff time? My answer to this is probably not. They might be able to get out of the first round. They might be able to win a series, especially if Vasilevsky is good. The Stars come out and produce. But this is still a side that you realize is not as good as they were in recent years. They are not contenders, but they just aren't ready to give up on things just yet. We've seen it before and we'll see it again. It's not that big of an issue, again, considering Hedman and Kucherov are a little bit older, but if they could find ways to retool the roster and just be better suited to compete and then maybe find ways to, gain additional picks or just try to get, NHL proven ready talent, they can go out there and help them try to compete as much as they can. That'd be ideal, but it is just very hard to see this team competing for Stanley Cups again in the near future, unless Vasilevsky goes back to that Vezina caliber form and the side is able to, again, just add more depth and try to work their way back up after being poached for years with a lot of these depth pieces being gone, or even star players going now too, and Stamkos as he is older. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that kind of being brought up, it's been kind of a rough patch. I mean, 98 points in back-to-back seasons is not really that bad, and they have gone on to the playoffs in back-to-back years. But compared to Tampa Bay standards before, this is a little bit of a rough patch. So if they'd made it 3 years in a row, they lost in the first round as John Cooper get fired, I'd say no. But things are kind of changing in Florida. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Lightning for this season? Do you think they will be able to go on to the playoffs, and do you think they'll be able to get past the first round? If so, tell me why, and then if not, of course, tell me why as well. Please make sure to like this video as well if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And good love, hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.